Okay, so our first one is the Toxic Free Beauty Act. Um, this bill would ban 11 of the most hazardous chemicals from beauty and personal care products sold in the US. So these chemicals would include mercury, formaldehyde, paraffins, phthalates. Um, I cannot pronounce this one, but they're in hair dye chemicals. Um, California, Massachusetts, and the EU have already banned these chemicals from cosmetic products.
Mm.
So on a state level, people are already talking about it in terms of, bringing forward those um, regulations, but it's not a federal thing.
If you're ready to create a salon business that thrives, but also aligns with your values of clean, holistic, and sustainable practices, then you're in the right place. Whether you're just getting started on your journey or you're already running a successful salon but crave more impact and clarity, this podcast is for you. I'm going to dive deep into mindset, systems, and strategies that help salon owners like you grow and scale your business while staying true to your purpose. Every week, we are going to have real conversations about the challenges, the successes of running a holistic salon. And I'll give you my insider tips. So if you're ready to transform your salon into a powerhouse of purpose, profit, and peace, let's get started.
Obviously, I don't know, I guess, if the best I mean, obviously it's important, right? Like, if we are, if we're putting products where there's mercury, formaldehyde, anything that has, was it the hormone like disruptors,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of health issues that can obviously come from that. Um, right? So that is obviously why it's important. People are usually putting on more that, and granted, there are studies shown, and this is like for sure, like small amounts of anything are not going to kill you, right? Moderation, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like people are still smoking cigarettes to this day, right? And they're smoking a pack a day, and they're still living until they're like 70 or 80, right? Like, however, if you are using, let's say 12 of these products a day, right? Like, I think that's like the average amount of personal care products that people use. You have shampoo, conditioner, face wash, your foundation or SPF or your toothpaste, whatever,
Yes. Yeah.
right? There's so many of them. You're using them every day. Maybe, you are sleeping in your makeup because you forget to take them off. But even though you wash your face, you're still maybe using something that has that in there. Like, so there's like, I mean, and granted, yeah, it might still be a very small amount, but if you're doing that all the time, I mean, all the time, I don't
It's
know.
the compound effect. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing is we compound all of like one product is not going to harm you. But when you look at the 12 products every single day, that that one little trace of a toxic ingredient now turns into a larger trace of toxic ingredients that we are compounding daily, monthly, yearly, and not to mention the other aspects of just environmental, like just for us to breathe our air, it is not clean air that we are used to drink our water, to eat our food because of the soil. Everything has changed so dramatically that we don't have the clean food, water, products, anything anymore. So that's where it becomes really, really detrimental to our health, is because it's compounded. And then this is why I preach to, salon owners and hairstylists, because we now are not only using our personal care, but we have our hands in those products every day
Hmm.
for hours and hours and hours every year. And that will dramatically make us sicker as we go on in our life, just in general.
Which I love that you bring that up because that does bring us to our next bill. But actually, yes, I'm going to bring that to our next bill, and then we're going to, sorry, I'm pausing this for a minute. Hold on. I need to get my bearings together. Okay. Uh, thank you for bringing that up, because that is our next bill actually that we're talking about. But before saying that, I also just want to reiterate, it's not Massachusetts, it's Maryland. I was wrong.
Okay.
I like got that confused for whatever reason, but Massachusetts does a lot of is really great in enacting environmental bills as well. But the status on the Toxic Free Beauty Act federally. So I'm gonna just say it was like reintroduced into this Congress, the 118th Congress, which is from 2003 to or sorry, 2023 to 2025. So it was introduced May 24th, 2023, and there has been like no activity on it basically since then. So there are 16 co-sponsors, but the prognosis. So, and I found this all out from a bill tracking website. It actually helps me understand kind of where we're at quite a bit in terms of where bills are.
Mhm.
But it says that there is a 0 chance of it being enacted. So, and again, like that is like for a lot of different reasons, but it's zero. They're saying 0 chance considering kind of what they've seen in the past. I think it's like only 2% of bills really like go through the entire system and like get enacted anyway. But this is like very low on the list for them. So they're not going to really think about that. So which doesn't totally make this next one better. But so for this the second bill in the Safer Beauty Safer Beauty Cosmetics campaign is the Cosmetic Safety for Communities of Color and Professional Salon Workers Act. So that one, I will say, is, in my opinion, the most important. And I mean, all of them are important, but this is a huge one because this directly affects beauty professionals too, right? Like I personally know a lot of people who have gotten sick, who can't work anymore, who couldn't use like certain products because they were breaking out in hives. Like that's crazy. And that's just to do your job, right? Like I mean, really, and I understand like a lot of chemical companies are like, you need to have ventilation and you need to do all this stuff, and then there's some of us, me, who do kitchen hair. But
But the thing is it's not just that. And a lot of the people that I have come in contact with that have those allergies, they didn't start off like that. They've been in the
yes,
industry for a long time. And it's exactly what I was saying. The compound effect in your body then all of a sudden starts to change, and you have reactions now, and you have to stop your job, what
yeah,
you're doing. I think it's crazy. And that's the whole thing. Like that compound effect is real. And that's why it's so important for us to start taking a look at this. But go ahead. Sorry. I'll get off on a tangent.
no, that's just what we do, right? But what this would entail if passed,
Mhm.
it would federally mandate access to translated safety data sheets, which of course, like we all know what that's about. But like, whenever we buy color, there's like, 2 sheets a box of
Yep.
telling you how to use it, what the, obviously we know what safety data sheets are. But it also funds for research grants to identify chemicals of concern in beauty and personal care products marketed to these vulnerable populations. Funding for the development of green chemistry, safer alternatives, and funding for 2 new national resource centers based on beauty justice and health and safety protections for professional salon owners. So that's really big in and out of itself because, again, people forget about the beauty industry. They forget what we do. They forget what we handle. And they just don't realize it. And that's like, that's not fair. It's like, unless we say something, people are not going to think about us. And, well, especially salon owners or stylists, beauty professionals in general, we're people pleasers. We don't want to rock the boat. We are very, I remember learning in beauty school, like you don't talk about religion or politics.
Yeah.
Right. Well, why, and I'm not
Right.
saying why is that, like, we understand why, but part of it is like not rocking the boat or making people feel uncomfortable. Like that's our whole thing is about being a safe place. So because of that, I think we're a little bit quieter on our own needs personally. Like I know we burn ourselves out all the time. Like
Yeah.
holidays, especially. Oh my gosh. It seems like that's maybe calmed down a little bit. Like I think we're kind of getting away from hustle culture. But again, like this bill specifically puts uh, puts research front and center of how can we better protect our beauty professionals and also communities of color because they also get it the worst.
Yeah.
Kind of like something that you and I mean, sort of what you and I have talked about earlier pre-podcast, accessibility, right? If people can't afford, right, these super nice products, based on location, based on finances, how uh, uh, that's so unfair. Like to put it frank, it's so unfair if people can't afford these nice products. So putting these protections in place make it a baseline too. And people love to talk about how green chemistry is not quite, all the way there yet too. There's not really a lot of research there. Well, great. This is the opportunity to put more funding into that research then. So then this green chemistry could be a lot safer also. Like we can have more conversations and discussions about it.
But we need to have the funding behind it so that we can actually do the research and make some changes. So this bill is very important for us as a profession and to keep us safe, because as we see, I mean, look at how many lawsuits and everything are coming out, and they are toxic. They're harming people, and we don't know what we don't know. So the more that we can like break open the conversations and have these I'm at a loss for words, but the conversations behind it to start making some of that change. So yeah, I think that this is just a really important one. What are the chances on this one? And I know it's scary.
You can probably see by my face that I hate it. And everyone listening, you should too, especially if you're a beauty professional. So I will say it was also introduced May 24th, 2023. Most of these bills in the Safer Beauty bill package have been. So it has 17 co-sponsors. Great. There's a 0% chance of it being enacted. So it's been kind of dead. So, and again, excited for the next episode of like how can you make your voice heard? Because honestly, like I see that and it makes me so sad. Like it makes me so sad that like it's kind of like I mean, again, not in a political sense, but I just remember getting bombarded by messages during COVID, during shutdown of like, well, you are an essential worker. And it's like, yeah, but what about my safety? What about how I feel? Like, no, you're not asking me about that. You're saying you feel okay with that, but I don't feel okay with that. I don't feel safe. Um, and again, like we are very much people pleasers. So, oh my gosh, I'm like actually gonna cry. But I feel like we just really deserve to have things be baseline a lot better and a lot safer. So, and we have to advocate for ourselves. So that one is a very important one to definitely bring forward as well too and say, hey, please, can you, like, to your representative, please can you support me on this? Talking to your clients, talking to your friends, your family, they're all so proud of you that you are in such a cool profession, like such a creative profession. Like, have it be safer for you. And if they love you, they'll do it. And if not, threaten them with that, whatever.
If you love me, you will bring this to our representatives.
Yeah, I'll bully them for you. Like, that's fine. I'll do that too. Because you deserve it. So, our next one is revealing fragrance ingredients. So this is the third bill in the Safer Beauty Bill package. This one specifically, this bill would require the disclosure of the secret, unlabeled, and often toxic fragrance and flavor chemicals in our personal care products on product labels and websites. I will say, I think I love that we're kind of talking about this because, and I'm going to bring up another GBC webinar we just had, but we had a really great conversation with the CEO, Kate from Dip Hair Care, because she was very honest and transparent about her fragrance. And I think there's also kind of a lot, and she touched on a few good points too, especially on misinformation around fragrance. It just because a lot of people trust essential oils more, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the best choice. That can still not be necessarily great. Obviously we know that like other fragrance chemicals can kind of come from anything, and we don't like love that. Like that could be, right, that could be from petrochemicals, that could be that's like the one I hear the most personally. But I don't know because you don't know because they don't disclose those or are transparent about it.
Yeah. And that's what would be important with this bill is the transparency behind it. Because, and I'll be honest, before I really started diving in deep to a lot of these different companies, and I was that essential oils only. Now, I love essential oils and they don't affect me, right? But I do have clients who cannot have essential oils. So we have to have some sort of options. But what is scary and what we talked about on the webinar with GBC is really it's knowing what the chemicals are, the synthetics that are without all of the petrols and the things that are going to be harmful to us. But more so, it's the transparency of what is in the product so that we know that it's not just a bunch of crap being hidden under there. Because
yes,
under that umbrella of this is a proprietary blend can be a lot of things that can be harmful to us and they don't have to disclose it. So having that transparency and the knowledge of what synthetic products are safe for us and what essential oils, like we can still have best of both worlds. And we need that for everyone here. So this bill will help bring that transparency, if I'm understanding right.
Yes. And also I will say it did just pass in California, New York. So statewise, like they've got that, which is really fantastic. Mm-hmm. On the federal side, it's got 14 co-sponsors, and also a 0% chance of getting enacted. So, but
I think there's a trend happening here.
Yeah. So then our next one, and I'm sorry, I think I kept saying that we have 4 bills, it's 5. So, just to say that, sorry, everyone. So our fourth one though, which it does totally go along with this is, so sorry, let me get the specific name for it. It's the Cosmetic Supply Chain Transparency Act, which is really fantastic. MOCRA kind of hits this a little bit, which is the Modernization of Cosmetic Regulation Act. That was actually passed a few years ago. It just officially became enacted July. Or I think like everyone had to get in their paperwork by July. That's really great. There's a little bit more that hits more with like transparency as well, especially on the manufacturer level. But what this bill does is mandate supply chain transparency so that cosmetic companies can get the information they need from upstream suppliers to make safer products. So something that I think a lot of us don't know is, so there are, right, only so many manufacturers, and honestly, there's only so many brands that own their own manufacturers. So, I could be, maybe I want to make shampoo. So I can go to different manufacturers. I can say, can you do this? And you could easily be like, hey, I want something vegan, I want something clean, and I want something green. And they could say, okay, easy. But they only have what they have. I think I'm sure some manufacturers too will be like, let me look into that, or let's work on this together, or whatever. But for the most part, it's very much like private label. Let's throw together some stuff and put a label on it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. However, that can be that could lead to lack of transparency. So something you might think is, vegan or whatever isn't vegan because of its origins. I'm just using that as an example, right? Because that's kind of the big one that people kind of go to. And as a brand, I could go to the manufacturer and say, so it doesn't have these things, right? And they could easily say, well, we don't want to give you the formula because we don't want you to take it to somewhere else. Like, it's very easy to do that. I've actually had a small brand approach me a couple weeks ago and like ask me that. They're like, so what, what should we do? Like, could we give them, they actually asked, they're like, could we actually give them the Green Beauty Community Guidebook and see if they follow that? And I'm like, which is like kind of not really, I shouldn't say that you couldn't, but it's very much just kind of like a basic guide, right? For everyone to understand certain terms. But it doesn't really hit on making people be transparent, right? So everyone is different. That is not all manufacturers, but there are manufacturers out there that do that. And you really don't have control of that unless you own your own like factory. And that's hard. That's just so expensive. And
it's a whole other level.
Whole other level.
Yeah.
But I will say what's really, really great about this one. Introduced May 24th, 2023, alongside the other ones. Now there's 13 co-sponsors, and it's not a 0% chance. It is a 1% chance of being enacted. I will say though, I think Mocha's going to help with that a lot. I think people demanding for transparency, which is kind of really the big thing right now in general, is they almost don't, I don't want to say they almost don't care. I think a lot of people are okay with some things just as long as people are being transparent about it, because they can make that informed decision then of, that's fine with me, right? Like clean beauty, green beauty, sustainable beauty, there's just really not a regulated term for that. So I think as long as people are happy with like knowing, I think that's all it takes. And I don't think we should be afraid to discuss that. I think if anything, people support that more and would support like buying your stuff more because of that. Just being honest, right?
I just recorded a podcast on that, being transparent and showing the behind the scenes and really taking people through like what it takes to create your brand. And whether that's a physical brand, like a product, or whether it's your salon or any other kind of business, I think that people are demanding, just tell me what I'm getting into. Like, I'm tired of this whole greenwashing and thinking I'm doing something better or buying something better just to find out that it's not. So the more companies can be transparent, open and honest with what they are, clients are still going to choose because they can make a conscious decision. Okay, maybe vegan is really important to me, but I'm okay with synthetic fragrances, or vice versa, or whatever is important to them, because each individual, something else is important to them because of their body makeup, because whatever's happening in their life, in their family life. Like, we need to be able to have these informed decisions. And and not like, I mean, when I first got into all of this over a decade ago, like, honestly, I just didn't even know how to make heads or tails of anything. And I thought I was buying products that were so much cleaner and so much better, only to find out later that no, they weren't being transparent and they were just kind of riding the waves of what, the bigger companies are doing. So this is a really important bill. And I like that. I mean, we're not zero, we're up to one now. So in the
Yeah.
positive direction.
And again, like this is federal level. And there's right so many federal issues that
Mm-hmm.
Congress and the Supreme Court and everyone involved, basically, president, whoever, they're all, they're all fighting something else. Everyone's passionate about something else. Right. We're passionate about it because we are in the beauty industry. We work with these cosmetics all the time. Like it is a huge part of our job. I also think it's also important because I think that also gives the upper hand to like distributors, people in product education. I'm just thinking specifically of when I was working in a salon and we would have the brands come in once a quarter or twice a year, whatever, and talk about their new line. Oh, why is it so great? The packaging's different. Oh, and it's great for curly hair, whatever. Or, you want something nice and sleek or color safe, whatever it is. But I very much remember, and this is like my best story ever, by the way. I like my partner who I'm dating is my Wikipedia, like he's like we call him my Wikipedia boyfriend. I guess fiance now, but like boyfriend, Wikipedia. So because he's just very knowledgeable in cosmetics, especially, he understands, he just gets it. I don't. Jack, I know you and I have talked about that before too.
Yes.
But I remember like showing him a new product and like giving the spiel that the distributor like gave us, and it was like, oh, what's really great about this is there's like no plastics in it. And he's kind of just thinking, he's like, what? And he's like, what kind of plastics are you one talking about? There's so many different things. What do you mean by that? Like, and he was so nice about it, did not say anything to me until like, I think after we started dating. And because it was like, probably a year or something, said something about that. And I go, you should have called me out. Cause like, because I'm saying that to everyone, right? Like,
Been saying
so
this to everyone for a while now.
yeah, like because I think I'm being transparent. I'm not being transparent. I'm like becoming a part of the problem, which is hard too, right? Like again, like, and maybe I'm also just like, I was never built to be a salesperson, and I've always been in some sort of sales, like because I'm just probably too honest, and I go down the list. But I want people to make the most educated decision because it also builds trust, right?
Yes.
I could never in good faith sell someone something that we like didn't try beforehand, or something that I was like, no, you should totally do this, like this is a great product for you, this is why X, Y, and Z. But I was always very much like, why don't we use this first, see how you like it, and you can buy it, like, you know um here's all the if, ands, and buts about it. Like, you're building that trust. If you are transparent, they're going to trust you way more too. Like, so it's more than just for our health. It is to build a better business, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because the fact is through COVID, consumers read up on things. Like we had a lot of time on our hands and we looked into things deeper and started to like question where, because we came back out into the world and we're like, oh, well, I didn't get my hair done for a while. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I didn't really love my salon and this gave me a great, out. So they started researching where they could go, what products they actually wanted, what options they were. So they're way more knowledgeable than they ever have been. And when we are transparent, I'm going totally off on a tangent. Like now my brain's gone totally different. And to bring it back in is the transparency is key to growing a better business, because if you don't, right? And I hate to be this whole like negative mindset, but if you don't, you will see it in your bottom line. Like,
Yeah.
that's just facts. Like, this is, if you don't start to get on board, instead of being pushed into having to make these changes, be in the forefront so that you are known as the salon, as the business, as the product who started making changes before it was all mandatory.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece for people to start seeing. Like, you can make small changes and start advocating and bringing this in before you have to make a choice, like shut down or change.
Well, and I mean, I don't know. That's like what people are looking for too. They want people to, they want people who are evolving, but also when you are already evolving that way, it's going to be just way easier. Then you're not like, oh, I have to start all over. Oh my gosh, this is so expensive. I can't do it. Like, it really is, because you're right. Bottom line, like, you could lose clients, you could use employees pretty easily because they're not, because you guys don't share the same values or things that are important to you. And when you are in your career day in and day out, I think a lot more people are also at this point like, I want to do something that I care about, that I'm passionate about, that match my values. And not saying like that's totally fine if you're not able to, right? Like, money's money, and like we still need money to survive. But if you're able to, why wouldn't you? Like, plus, and again, like, so if you're losing clients, if you're losing employees because values don't match, and then you have to start all over because of regulations, like, that is like a financial burden, right? Like, that's hard. That's really hard to get out of.
But right now, you have a choice.
Yeah.
And you get to do things on your own terms. And nobody's saying, I never, ever, ever coach to or teach that you have to go and do all of them. It's starting small, right? So if it is a financial burden, you just take one thing at a time and you start making those small changes. And eventually, just like the compound effect of ingredients and what that's doing to us, the compound effect of you just making small changes is enormous. Like, you don't have to do it all overnight. And when you just make a decision, right? It's making that decision of, I'm going to be aware, I'm going to educate myself, I'm going to show up to the green beauty community and learn. I'm going to show up to the podcast and learn about what is possible and take that education and then just implement one or two things. That makes such a big difference. And then it doesn't have to be this forced thing or such a big, huge burden. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Impactful Salon Owners Podcast. I hope today's episode gave you valuable insight and inspiration to take your salon to the next level. Before you go, I wanted to remind you that the Holistic Salon Academy is opening up soon. So if you're ready to dive deeper into clean, holistic, and sustainable salon practices and build a truly impactful business, be sure to join the waitlist. By signing up, you'll be the first to access all of the details and exclusive content before anyone else. You definitely don't want to miss out. And of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this one, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps to grow the show and reach more salon owners just like you. And lastly, come hang out with me on Instagram at Clean Beauty Biz Coach, where I'm a real life person who loves to connect with you. I'm always in my DMs answering your questions and would love to chat more over there. Thanks again for being here, and remember, every step forward is a step towards lasting change. Until next time.